we have had a debate once before, and it was about the about Zack Snyder. And today I brought you in to talk about Rise of Skywalker. But since, the first time I talked to you was because I was like, whoa, you're like a lefty Snyder bro. I've never really run into one of those before, and I wanted to pick your brain. Zack Snyder recently had a movie come out, and I know you weren't happy about it either. So I just wanted to give you this opportunity to admit that you were wrong for liking Zack Snyder to begin with.
There's at least two Zack Snyder movies that I don't really like, so I think your characterization of me is a little bit false.
No, I think I'm accurate in that you have changed your mind completely about Zack Snyder and recognize that he is a hack. I think that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
hack Snyder.
Yeah. As I said in my previous debate, I'm not looking for anything to be spicy or bad faith or anything like that, which obviously opening up the way I did, clearly that shows my intent here. But I just kind of, I want to have a more free-form, positive conversation. I brought you in to talk about this because you're the only person that I know who actually likes The Rise of Skywalker. And I did go ahead and rewatch Rise of Skywalker this morning to prepare for it, and I have a whole bunch of notes for it, so I just need to make sure I've got those all pulled up and ready to access. But why don't you go ahead and start and tell me what it is that about Rise of Skywalker that you think makes it such a good movie? Because I think you've described it as one of the best Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really well directed. I mean, that's obvious just from watching it, right? Like, the performances in it are really strong.
So directing, like, in terms of acting, cinematography, stuff like that?
Yeah, cinematography, visually, it's really visually creative. Every scene feels fresh and different, yet still very Star Wars-y. It has a style to it that's kind of missing from the previous two sequels, in the sense that it's kind of going for the so you know how like original Star Wars was kind of meant to be like Flash Gordon sort of style, like those old I don't know how much you know about like TV history, but like
I'm older than you.
Those old serials.
I'm aware that Lucas modeled the original trilogy after the old serials. That's why he had like the whole episode 5, the idea that, I must have missed the previous episodes. Here's this episode of the serial. I need to find out what happened in the others.
Yeah, and there's a style to that that's really frenetic. There's an energy to those old serials where you start watching it and you can tell that they didn't have the money to shoot some scenes or something, because there's like chunks missing and it's really fast paced. And when you start, there's like a whole wall of text, like, which is basically breaking a cinematic convention. You can't throw fucking wall of text on the screen. But Star Wars movies open with that, you know, because they're paying tribute to what's arguably bad storytelling.
Sure, but
so when The Rise of Skywalker starts, it's a big wall of text, and you're like, oh, fucking Palpatine is back, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk about that one, because what is it, like, the dead speak is the first line of the opening crawl. And didn't that end up actually, like, wasn't that an event that played out in Fortnite? Like, the actual message was heard in Fortnite, like people had to go play like an event there to find out what it was?
I don't even really know what the details are on that, but
yeah, I seem to remember that was the case. I don't play Fortnite, so
because it sounds funny.
Yeah,
I choose to believe it because it's funny.
Just like how Thanos like showed up in Fortnite before like Infinity War or something. I feel like, or was it Endgame? It was one of them.
To me, it's funnier if Thanos showed up right before Infinity War, because then all of the Marvel movies build up to him showing up in Fortnite first.
Look, Endgame was literally just a prequel to Lego Fortnite, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the visual style, I would say it's very similar to The Force Awakens because it's J.J. Abrams. And I was watching you live tweet your rewatch of The Rise of Skywalker, so I do have some context for what you were, some of the things that you were admiring in there. And one particular one that I noted was the very like camera movie way things happen whenever there's scenes of exposition. And that's something that's not unique to this movie. That is just something that J.J. Abrams really likes to do when he's trying to get like people just delivering a lot of information. He wants to make sure that the camera's always moving so that the scene doesn't feel boring, so that it keeps going. It's like, you know, it could just be a bunch of people sitting around and talking, but the camera is keeping things visually interesting and it keeps it having that forward momentum. And I can like acknowledge that he does deliver a certain energy there. It's not original to me because that's just his style. I've seen him do that in basically everything he's directed. And there was some specific thing. Hang on, I'm looking up my notes here. Okay, so J.J. Abrams has directed a lot of movies, and very notably, he's directed 2 Star Wars movies and 2 Star Trek movies. And I think that his Star Trek movies say a lot about what his Star Wars movies ended up being. Because he made Star Trek 2009, which was a soft reboot that still upheld the old canon and paid respect to it while setting the stage for a new group of people to tell any story that they wanted. And then his next Star Trek movie was Into Darkness, in which he took that opportunity that he set out for other people, but then it fell back to him. And J.J. Abrams, who has always been far more interested in setting up the mystery box than opening it, what does he do when he has a cinematic franchise in which the world is open to him and he can tell any story? He retreats back to the most known things from Star Trek. He just tries to remake The Wrath of Khan. And what does J.J. Abrams do in Star Wars? He makes The Force Awakens, which is a soft reboot that pays homage and respects the old stuff and doesn't erase any of it, but gives us a new cast of characters and sets the stage for a new story. The world's open. It can go anywhere. And what does he do when he gets his next Star Wars movie? He tries to remake Return of the Jedi.
Is that what you characterize it as, a remake of Return of the Jedi?
Among other things, yes. But I think it feels very beholden to just trying to like play back the hits of the franchise rather than actually telling something new.
Interesting. I partially agree with that. Partially. I don't really think that's a bad thing, though. Like, if you're telling a story and you got this 9-film saga, it'd be pretty fucking weird to do like a 180 in like the last chapter of the 9-film saga.
Well, I'm not talking
go like, no, we're gonna do something completely different in like the last 2 seconds of this 10-minute story we're telling you.
I'm not talking about doing a 180. Well, actually, I think what he did was a 180 because he had set up this franchise to go forward in Star Wars and to tell new stories, but instead he's just like, oh no, we got to go back and do the Emperor again. We got to have the meme lines. The Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider unnatural, and we have to, tie it all back. Honestly, okay. Can we agree that Leia shouldn't have been in this movie?
You can think that.
Okay, so we can't agree then. Because, for those of you who don't know, Carrie Fisher died before this movie was filmed. And so, but Leia didn't die in episode 8, in The Last Jedi. And they had fully planned for, I think the original plan was episode 7 would be Han Solo's movie, episode 8 would be Luke's movie, and episode 9 would be Leia's movie. But then Carrie Fisher died. And so they used archival footage of Carrie Fisher. They used like some scenes from a deleted scene that they had filmed for The Force Awakens and just repurposed it. And it's very obvious because she doesn't say a lot, and what she says is very generic, and you have everyone else filling in all of the details around it so that it's like everyone else is like, projecting all of their thoughts onto the meaning of the very few lines that Leia actually delivers. And it's very awkward. Fortunately, they didn't just use a deep fake to resurrect old Carrie Fisher. They do deep fake a young Carrie Fisher when they have a flashback of her sparring with Luke, but for the most part, they weren't.
They don't.
Oh, it wasn't
They
a
don't
deep.
actually.
It wasn't a deep fake. They just did
That
it.
was so for that scene. They used footage of Leia from Return of the Jedi, and for the shot of Luke, they used footage from Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, so they just did they took the face and they didn't do. I guess for Rogue One, I feel like they just did a CGI recreation.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know if it was a
completely
deep fake
CGI,
because I don't think the deep fake technology was there yet. Like nowadays, you can deep fake it. Like Luke in Book of Boba Fett, I'm pretty sure is deep faked. But
yeah.
Yeah.
For Leia in Rogue One was completely CGI. They created like a CGI head model and then just put it on a woman's face.
It looked really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I feel like
it looked good for a second, but then when she started talking, it looked really bad.
It looks fine in a still image. There's a lot of things that you pick up on in motion that you might not pick up on in a still image. But like I said, it felt so awkward. I think they really should have just killed Leia off between movies. Nobody would blame them for that. Nobody would be like, why isn't Carrie Fisher, who died, why isn't she in this movie? We would understand. It's tragic. Yeah. I understand that they really wanted to have Leia get her whole movie. I would have loved that to happen. I would have loved for Carrie Fisher to still be alive, but she died. They should have just let Leia die off screen.
I will say, when I first saw the movie, I didn't really notice how weird and sort of, because she's very one note, isn't she?
Yeah.
She'll say one line, and then two other people will say something around her, and then she'll respond with one word again. So it's kind of awkward. I didn't really notice how awkward it was the first time I watched the movie. This time I did. However, I do think the movie earns its use of her by the end, because halfway through you have the scene where she sort of reaches out to Ben Solo, and it's a big emotional crux for the whole movie. And so I am glad that they did sort of keep her around for that moment, just for the benefit of the other characters, not necessarily for the benefit of Leia, but for the benefit of Ben Solo. I am glad they kept her around.
I think there could have been potentially a way to just imply a Force Ghost Leia was doing that, without having to deal with, Leia's dying, so here's Maz Kanata, whose only purpose in this movie is to explain to the audience what it is that Leia is doing at any point. And
exactly.
Which honestly, Maz Kanata has been such what a waste of Lupita Nyong'o. There was so much potential for Maz. I really liked her in the first movie. In the second movie, she literally is just there for one scene where she just delivers some information to the main characters on a hologram thing. And then here, all she is, well, Carrie Fisher's dead, so we'll give the rest of the lines that we would have Carrie Fisher say to Maz Kanata, but without giving Maz Kanata the character agency to be the one to say them. No, instead, she's just going to be revealing to us what it was that Carrie Fisher would have said.
You know what's really ironic about that as well? I don't know if you know this, but in there was a very first trailer that was released. It was before any other trailer for The Force Awakens, and you see Maz Kanata. Well, you don't see her, but you see her hands holding the lightsaber, and she hands it to Leia, and Leia takes the lightsaber, and that's definitely the footage that they used for whatever they ended up repurposing that footage for in The Rise of Skywalker. But they probably would have replaced Maz Kanata with Rey. There's that scene where Rey is crouched down and she's looking into a bag, and Leia's looking down at her, and Leia says, "Tell me."
Mm-hmm.
I think that's Leia talking to Maz Kanata in a cut scene from The Force Awakens. That's my theory.
Yeah, well, since I had seen a bunch of deleted scenes from The Force Awakens, there were things that I noticed in
but
Rise of
you haven't
Skywalker. I
seen
was like,
all of them.
oh yeah, I saw that scene because it
They
was
didn't
like,
reveal them all.
yeah, because like in the final feature of The Force Awakens, we don't see Leia until she arrives after Rey has been taken and reunites with Han. But in like there was a deleted scene where we saw her as the general of the Resistance earlier, which also set up stuff with like that one lady who the camera focuses on as the Hosnian system gets blown up. Like she had like lines and stuff like that they cut all of that. But you know, that's about the Rise of Skywalker. That's not about the Rise of Skywalker. That's about the Force Awakens. So
that was never underestimate a droid line, right?
yes.
She sort of walks around the person and then the camera focuses on her. And then they flipped it and used it for Rey. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm playing the game and I was looking for a hint, so it said I need to go find the rooster in Mabe Village. Okay. Back to the debate. Okay, so okay, this is a technical complaint. Why is there strobe lights in Exegol?
It's because J.J. Abrams hates disabled people and wants to kill them.
Yeah, that's literally my thought. Like, in this day and age where we understand that photosensitive epilepsy is a thing and we know how to mitigate it, why is he making this big movie that he knows is going to make $1 billion and everyone wants to see? Why is he making it inaccessible to people who that could kill?
Do you know Greg Gunberg?
Oh yeah,
Greg
he's
Gunberg?
He's in all of J.J. Abrams stuff. He's like childhood friends with J.J. Abrams. Yeah.
He was in an interview talking about promoting the movie, and one of the things he was talking about was people with photosensitive epilepsy, because I think his child has it. I think, and he talked about that, and I thought that's very strange, because like a day after I watched him giving that interview, talking about this new Star Wars movie he was promoting, I walk into the theater and there on the theater door
there was a warning. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah. that's funny little coincidence.
Yeah, so like I said, this is I have a problem with J.J. Abrams just in general, in that he is very interested in setting up mysteries and then has no intention or ideas about the mysteries. Like, he wrote and directed the pilot episode of Lost, and then he never had anything to do with that show again. And so that was left for Damon Lindelof and his writers to build out the mythology there. And I don't necessarily think that Lost had a satisfying conclusion there, but at least other people were working on that stuff. J.J. Abrams has the whole mystery box thing as a crutch because he doesn't actually want to write interesting mysteries where he knows the answer and wants to take you on a ride of finding that out. No, he just wants the idea of a mystery to propel things. And you really see that in The Force Awakens. There's a lot of mysteries. How did Luke's lightsaber show up? Oh, that's a story for another time. Who's Snoke?
Yeah,
we don't know. We'll find out. Yes, I agree. I think.
Actually, I actually hate Snoke. I hate that character.
Oh, can we both then agree that I made Snoke? Like, if he said the line "I made Snoke" and just left it at that, it would be so much better. But he says "I made Snoke," and then Kylo literally walks by a vat of failed Snoke clones, and I'm like, no, don't. Just say "I made Snoke" and leave it at that. Leave it ambiguous if you're still going to do that. Don't show us.
No, because that's good visual storytelling.
No, it's not. It's
show it.
No. I hated that. That was dumb.
No, but it's funny. He's in a little jar. Snoke goop. You can drink it.
Oh, hang on. I have somebody yelling at me in chat. There we go.
Are you telling me that you wouldn't drink the Snoke goop out of the Exegol jar?
I am not going anywhere near Exegol. Also, I'm going to complain about Exegol because having read some of the development of the movie, it wasn't originally going to be Exegol. it was going the
was
Sith
going to be
temple.
a billion times worse.
No, I think it was going to be better because the ancient Sith temple was going to be underneath the Jedi temple on Coruscant. The idea that the institution of light side power for a thousand generations had been built atop an evil Sith monument would say so much about, like, I fucking hate the Jedi, like, as an institution. I don't like institutions in general. But like,
what's that from then? Is that from the Duel of Fates script, or
I don't know if
else?
I don't know if it's from the Duel of Fate script, but I do know that they had, like, there had been a mandate for, like, all of the other Star Wars stuff not to go to Coruscant because they were reserving Coruscant for the Rise of Skywalker. But then they ended up not doing it, and they had it set in Exegol instead.
That does sound cool. Actually.
Yeah, that would have been way more interesting. We would get to see Coruscant again. We haven't been there since episode 3. And I like that idea. I like the idea that maybe that's what corrupted the Jedi Council to begin with. Maybe that's why the Jedi were a failure as an institution, is because they were built atop,
I think that's
the
still
lies
canon,
of the Sith.
By the way.
You think that's still canon?
I believe, it's still canon because Dave Filoni talked about how there was a whole arc in Clone Wars that got cut out. But the idea was that the Jedi Temple was built on the ancient Sith Temple that was there on Coruscant to combat the evil there. But all the evil ultimately does is like leak into the Jedi or whatever. I don't really know what the idea was, but that sounds really cool. And the idea was that, like, Ahsoka was going to journey into the temple beneath the Jedi Temple, and she would encounter, like, Palpatine down there. Like, that was like a vague idea Dave Filoni almost did for the final season of Clone Wars, but it never happened.
Yeah, well, so the thing about plans is that plans aren't canon until they have been executed. So
no, but
still...
the lore about the Sith Temple being beneath the Jedi Temple is canon. I think that one is canon.
Unless it's made it into a book or something. Like, if it's just been said in interviews, I don't. You can say anything. J.K. Rowling could make up a bunch of Harry Potter lore that was never in any of the actual work.
She always does.
I don't buy the idea of canon as just being like, oh, I just thought of it here, let me just say this on Twitter or something like that. No, like, canon should be the work.
Probably in like but it was probably in like a fucking visual dictionary. But I don't think it's been done into a story yet.
Yeah, so I would, like, it's still very possible that that's where they go with it. I'm just saying that until they do,
probably the reason they didn't end up doing that is because the whole point was the story was meant to be about finding Exegol, which is supposed to be hard to find.
Right, so yeah, they had that whole plot, and that's probably... Yeah. I suspect it was probably early in development that they decided to do that, and then they changed it to be Exegol. But, like, they had no development on Exegol. It's literally like a barren planet. We never actually see any of the inhabitants more than they are just kind of vaguely there in robes. But, like, the first time I saw that movie, like, my read was like, are those guys even there, or are they just kind of the spirits of the Sith Ancients that are, like...
Yeah.
Because, like, in that whole big arena, like, it never feels like they're actually there. Like, them in the stands, that feels far more like a representation of all of the Sith looking down on all of them, right? They never felt like real people. And so the idea that Palpatine is using the dark powers of the Sith to bring about this whole big fleet of ships for the First Order to use, if he's using his mystical Sith powers with all of these mysterious hooded Exegol people to build it, why do they all just look like Star Destroyers? Like, why can't they look more mystical? Why can't they look like maybe organic or something like that? Like, they just look like the Star Destroyers we've seen in every Star Wars thing ever. I thought that was a big missed opportunity.
I know what you're talking about. You misinterpreted a line of dialogue, I think.
Which was?
Are you talking about when the guy says he conjured a legion of Star Destroyers?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a misinterpretation. They just built those. They weren't, like, conjured by magic.
Okay, I know, but, like, they still, like, it's an ancient Sith planet, right? Why do they have to build them the same way you would build a Star Destroyer on Corellia?
Well, because it's a mix between. I don't know why the Sith planet has to magically. I don't know what you're getting at with that, but the Sith planet is still just like a planet with people on it, right?
Yeah, but we never see those people, and like the whole implication is it's this, dark world. I'm just saying Exegol seems very barren. We don't see any of the people, and then they just have Star Destroyers that just look like Star Destroyers. It felt very lazy. It felt like they hadn't done enough actual development on Exegol as a place.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. I agree that basically every planet is completely underdeveloped in that movie.
Also, I know J.J. Abrams likes to do very engaging, very frenetic, very like ADHD action sequences.
Perfect for me.
Sure, but I really fucking hate the light speed skipping scene at the beginning because like the whole idea of light speed skipping.
It's so clever.
No, it's not, because the idea is, oh, we're doing light speed jumps in dangerous places so that we quickly lose them. Except every single time he does the light speed jump, the TIE fighters are right on his tail every single time. They just follow him exactly when we're talking distances of light years. And they just, they already established in the last movie that in order to track someone through hyperspace, it takes like a big device on like a Star Destroyer to do. But I guess now they've miniaturized that down to TIE fighters where they can immediately lock onto where you're going and like follow you in hyperspace instantly. So like all it does is change the visuals of where they're being chased to and fro. I really hated that sequence. The idea is if you're using that, you're using it to do a quick getaway, not to dodge different space things while still in the same fight.
That's all Ryan Johnson's fault. Because technically, if you think about what light speed skipping is, it's kind of like a canon breaking thing, because it means that your heroes can no longer escape the villains by outsmarting them and then quickly light speed skipping away, because they would just always follow them. So with Star Wars, you've always got to kind of come up with a new thing to outdo the new thing. And now that they can follow you through light speed, you've got to find out. I think that was actually a creative way to deal with a new development in the canon. Really.
No, I think visually it looks cool visually, but if you think about it for more than 2 seconds,
that's Star Wars.
It worked.
That's all of Star Wars.
No, not always. I think this one was J.J. Abrams.
Star Wars is things that look cool, but if you think about them, they don't really make sense.
Well, no, usually that's more the more mystical elements, not like dealing with the ship movement and stuff like that. Like when they build ships, they make ships look like they all still like work with like actual logical like they look like they've been built with intent. Like these things are actual technical machines that have thought put into them. And so while I generally think that Star Wars is not the kind of thing where you should be nitpicking technical details like that, I am going to complain about the light speed skipping. It doesn't make sense for me. And in that vein, this movie even addresses a similar technical nitpick that a lot of people had about The Last Jedi, which was the hold-on maneuver, because somebody suggests, oh, we can get some hold-on maneuvers, and then somebody else goes, nah, that was a 1 in a million, we can't do that again. Which is fine, because a lot of people were like, oh, you did the hold-on maneuver, now we've just ruined Star Wars because we can just always do hold-on maneuvers, and so they addressed that. They're like, no, we can't do hold-on maneuvers. Except that in the end, once they have beat the First Order and they do a flash to like different planets and seeing them all celebrate, you can see when they go visit Wicket on Endor that there is a Star Destroyer in the sky having been destroyed by the hold-on maneuver.
Yeah.
So it was a 1 in a million, but they did it again.
Yeah, but it's a good bit of visual storytelling to show you that millions of people are rising up.
It's inconsistent with the messaging. It's just they don't care if it was if it makes sense. They just want it to look cool. And I need to figure out which of these graves I'm supposed to be moving. It said one down. So I don't even know which of these I'm supposed to be moving. Can't move you. Stop it. I have no idea which one. Sorry, I don't know if you're watching me play, but I'm supposed to be pushing graves.
I'm playing a game as well.
I don't even know which one of these graves can be moved, and these stupid boos can't be killed. I can only push them aside. Hey, Nactel, I know you're very excited. It's just it's hard to tell what part you're saying there. Yes, that one right there. Which one is moving? Because like I'm pushing on a bunch of them, and they just don't seem to be moving when I am pushing them. Hey, stop that! Oh, that one moved. Okay. Stop that. When do you stop? Okay, I killed you. I just don't know what the right... Yeah, I'm sure it's in a certain order, but I just need to find out which ones I can even move to begin with. Anyway, sorry. Back to the debate that we are debating. Let me check my next note here real quick. Things that I liked about the movie. I liked the kintsugi repair of Kylo's helmet. You know, kintsugi, the Japanese art of using gold to repair something that's broken. Obviously, they didn't use gold. They used, like, red Sith paint or whatever. But I did like that. I thought that looked cool.
That's interesting. Most people say they hate that idea because they think it's Kylo Ren, like, reverting. Like, going back on...
He smashed his helmet because Snoke had ridiculed it. Yeah, but then he killed Snoke. So like that one, I can understand the criticism that it's reverting, but yeah, no, I think that one works. Other things that I like about the movie, Babu Frick, like he alone, it's like, okay, there is at least one redeeming quality of this movie that it gave us. Babu Frick. He's the little guy, the droid smith who wiped 3PO's memory. I love that guy.
The dress is rusty.
That's my best impression of Babu Frick.
I would say that probably one of the worst things that this movie did was the whole Chewie fake out death. Because they don't commit. If they were going to do the Chewie fake out...
Did you want them to kill Chewie? Is that what you're saying?
No, I want them to commit on holding to the fake out. They were cowards and let you find out 5 minutes later that he wasn't dead. Like, and the rest of the characters don't find that out until later in the film. So like they could have, let us actually sit there for a moment thinking that Chewie was dead and actually feel the emotional consequences of that, but they were too cowardly to actually let that happen. So they just...
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I have a theory about that as well. I have another tin hat theory.
Oh, let's hear it.
There was a deleted scene where Kylo talks to Chewie while he's imprisoned.
Uh-huh.
And I think what happened was, for whatever reason, they cut that scene out, and then they were like, okay, well, let's just have a scene where we say that, like, we captured Chewie, and then we'll just throw that in there. So you know that Chewie is there and alive. Because I think it would have worked way better if you didn't know Chewie was alive for the longest time.
Well, and I would have liked to see... I would have liked to see Kylo talk to Chewie, because, like, surely Chewie's known Kylo his whole life. Chewie's been friends with Han forever. Like, Chewie probably changed his diapers at one point, right?
Yeah. And Kylo walking into the ship, and then, like, walking into a room, and then the door opening, and Chewie being there, and Kylo walking in and talking to Chewie. I think that would have been the reveal, but they cut it out, and maybe that's why that part sucks, because they're just like, okay, we'll have them say they captured Chewie, and then like we'll just put that in there so the audience knows he's alive.
Okay, I just had a realization about how I'm supposed to be moving these graves. Maybe. Okay. I have moved them in the wrong order, but I have figured out where they all move now. So down, left, right, and then these two up. Okay. Let me reset. I'm in the wrong order. Well, I know it's the wrong order, Fought Knight. I was just testing to see which ones move in the direction that I need them to move. I wrote it all down from the book. It's just... it's not clear. Down. Stop. Left. Up. Right. And up. There we go. Okay. Sorry. Now that I'm in the color dungeon, this should be fun. But I'm going to pause and let's resume our debate. Where was I? Other things I liked. I liked Dio. I thought Dio was a really cute design for a droid. It's like, let's make something even cuter and smaller than BB-8. And I liked that they acknowledged the trauma that he was dealing with. I did like that Rey reached out and he's like, shies away and goes, no, thank you. And she's like, oh, he's been traumatized. I recognize that. I can relate to a little traumatized droid or little guy. I actually have a Lego Dio model. I think he's basically full-sized.
You know, there's a full-sized remote control Dio.
Nice.
That just looks exactly like it looks in the movie. It was only like $90. I saw it on Amazon. I almost bought it.
All right. I'm in the color dungeon now. Said I will need magic powder to do anything, so this should be fun. Tell me something else you like about the movie.
The acting.
Any particular performances overall? I'm sure Kerry Russell did a great job moving her head in a mask.
Daisy Ridley was really good in that movie. And Adam Driver, of course, but he's always really good.
Yeah, I tend to like those actors, so I can.
I also think Oscar Isaac gave like a really strong supporting role. You know?
I thought Poe was actually really obnoxious in this movie. And maybe part of that was intentional. I do really like Oscar Isaac. I think Oscar Isaac is one of my favorite actors. But actually, let's talk about the not gaying of the movie. Because everybody had been clamoring for a Finn-Poe romance because they very clearly love each other. They have strong chemistry right from the start. They're so excited to find out that the other one is still alive. at the end of Force Awakens. And so this movie had to make sure to give them, straight love interests so that they are not gay. The only gays that are allowed in Star Wars are, Nose Lady and somebody we've never seen before.
That's okay. I'm delusional. They're bisexual now. Canon.
Who's bisexual now?
They are. Because I say so.
Oops, I just fell. Yeah, sorry. And also in particular with Finn, because like Finn was like one of the main characters. He was like basically as important as Rey was in The Force Awakens. And here he's mostly relegated to yelling Rey a lot. And the one like actual story thread that he gets is connecting with Janna. Who it feels like in a franchise where Finn already had 3 potential romantic interests because they had set up the thing with him and Rey, like he seemed interested in Rey in the first one. He and Poe had a lot of great dynamic chemistry together, and then in the Last Jedi, they've got his whole thing with Rose, and Rose got done majorly dirty in this sequel. So with those 3 potential love interests, they're like, no, let's create a new one. And let's make sure that he gets a black one this time so that we don't have to do any kind of interracial romance.
I think they're cowards for not having Rose play a much bigger part in the movie.
Yeah.
And not simply fulfilling the romance story that was clearly set up in the previous movie between Finn and her. Because like that was clearly like set up as a romance between her and Finn, right?
Yeah.
And like I know people didn't love like that romance, but I don't think that really matters. I think you can just do it anyway.
Yep.
Rather than creating like a whole new thing that you don't have any time to really flesh out. Because I do think Janna and the X-Troopers, I think that's a good idea. But it's not, it's introduced so late into the movie that you don't really have any time for it.
Yeah, and I like the idea of Finn either becoming aware of his connection to the Force, or, I mean, honestly, like, the way that The Last Jedi ended, where it was like, anybody could be a Jedi. Like, you had that little kid who just, picks up his broom with the Force and then, like, turns his broom into a lightsaber and stuff like that. The idea is that the next Jedi can come from everywhere. Also, I like the idea. Ahsoka, actually, I did quite appreciate how Ahsoka took a character who had never really shown any Force ability. Like, Sabine's been a character in Star Wars for a while. She was in 4 seasons of Rebels, and then they decided, okay, well, after 10 years of training, she's not the greatest at it, but she's learned how to use the Force a little bit. So I do like that idea. I don't like the idea that the Force is like tied to familial dynasties. Like, it's an ability that, like people are like, oh, I could never draw like that. I don't have the talent. And it's like, well, most of what you see is not actual talent. It's just hard work and perseverance and learning a skill. And you just have to work at it. So I like the idea setting that up, that Finn potentially could learn to use the Force, that he has some awareness of it. Yeah, it didn't do enough with it. Also, like, was that the secret that he was going to tell Rey? That was my read, that he was going to tell Rey that he had started to become aware of the Force, but they never actually explicitly state it.
Yeah, the movie I think the movie is doing this thing where it's trying to trick you into thinking that he was going to tell Rey that he loved her, maybe. But then as the movie goes on, you start to realize that he's Force sensitive, and that's what he was going to tell Rey. But it doesn't have the conclusion to that arc where he actually tells Rey he's force sensitive.
Yeah, they just kind of leave that one. Like, my read on it, just from, just understanding, film language and, basic storytelling stuff and where they actually go with Finn, I have to assume that that was the secret that he was going to tell her, but they just don't actually, like, resolve it officially. And
Yeah.
so I know a lot of people, like, the obvious one is, oh, of course, I never told you that I love you. Like, that seems like an obvious thing to go toward, even if that's not ultimately what they wanted to go with.
Yeah,
But
that was definitely meant to be our assumption, but then the movie does a 180 on you, and actually he's force sensitive. I think that's what they were trying to do, sort of tricking us into thinking it was going one way, but then it actually goes the other way.
oh no, I have a boss fight. Let's see how this one goes. And I'm low on health already, so I'm probably gonna die here. Oh, I died. Okay. Okay, other stupid things about the movie. The frickin' the blade. They find the blade just by random
Why is this
happenstance.
blade such a problem?
Because it's really
I don't
stupid. They
understand.
fall into quicksand that isn't really quicksand because it leads to a tunnel that the sand doesn't sink into, but they sink into. They weren't, like, trying to go and like, at that point they were running away from the stormtroopers. They weren't actively, like, looking for the thing. They just happened to, while they're running away from stormtroopers, fall into the exact right sand pit that has the hints to the next thing that they need. And
Are you
then
complaining because there's a coincidence in Star Wars? Is that what you're doing right now?
I'm complaining because it's a very lazy coincidence. It's just they fall in to find the exact thing that they need. It's, yeah, no, it's bad.
But what about the knife?
Oh, that the idea that they just have, this dagger that just so happens to have the coordinates to the thing that they need. But it's like you have to, like, line it up at this one spot, and they just happen to get to the right one spot to line it up. None of it makes sense. What?
It makes perfect sense. They followed the coordinates. That's why they're standing at that spot.
Who would
It makes
make
perfect
a
sense.
hint to do that? Like, how did they manage to end up at the exact spot? The coordinates were like, oh, we need to go to Endor. It wasn't like stand in this exact
hold
spot
on.
on the moon of Endor.
Hold on. No. Do you have any idea how big the fucking Death Star is? You could stand in any spot in that, like, 2-mile radius, and you would still have the same pattern on the Death Star.
Fought Knight says the blade is older than the wreckage, though. I don't know that was my read on it. It would have had
the blade isn't older than the wreckage.
Yeah, no,
That's wrong.
Yeah, it would have had to be.
The blade was made for Ochi of Bastoon, which is why he has it. The wreckage is from 30 years ago, but the blade, people misread something because someone says, like, ancient Sith runes, and it's like an ancient language. The blade isn't ancient.
Yeah.
It's just got an ancient language
Yeah,
scribed onto it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't my. Yeah, the blade had to have been made after Return of the Jedi. That's the only possible actual thing. It's just, no, I'm sorry. The way it's like, oh, and, like, no, I'm sorry. Just because the Death Star is massive doesn't mean that you can stand at any point in the shoreline and have it line up exactly. There is parallax. There is a slight change in orientation about where it is that you're seeing certain specific things lining up to. So no,
you're completely wrong.
No, I'm completely right.
The Death Star is enormous. They have the coordinates to stand at the spot they needed to spot in. So really, The only difference would have been like what, like a few meters. Like they followed the coordinates that led them to that spot. So I don't even know what your problem is with that part. It makes perfect sense to me.
No, you're just wrong.
You're wrong.
All right, I got the map in here. Let's see my next note. Oh, I know some people complained about the Han Solo vision. I didn't have a problem with it. My read on that was that it would have been Leia's Force Ghost if Carrie Fisher had been alive. That they brought him in because obviously Carrie Fisher was dead. They wanted to have, a scene where Kylo reconnects with his parents, and has, he comes back to Jesus basically. I do know, like, somebody asked Harrison Ford, like, so were you like a Force ghost? What were you? And he's just like, how the fuck should I know?
No, he said, I don't fucking care. That's what he said. When someone asked him. Yeah, it's a happy accident though, because they didn't plan to create that scene, but I'm really glad that they did, because in The Force Awakens, when Han Solo dies, it is meant to be this like tragic loss. Like, he basically dies for nothing in that scene. It's the opposite of Luke's death, right? Because Luke's death was this like big sacrifice.
Well, it's not that he
Solo's
dies
death,
for nothing. He dies as a turning point for Kylo, to just show how far Kylo has fallen, that he would kill his own father. And the giving that conversation to Han, and that they were paralleling the language of their original scene, repeating this, like, I don't know if I have the strength to do it, and even repeating the moves where he takes out the lightsaber.
Originally, he kind of dies for nothing if you think about what the Resistance achieved by sending it. But now it's kind of redeemed, because the love that he showed to his son ends up redeeming his son in the end, because his son looks back on that moment and thinks, what could I have done differently?
Oh, I want to touch on something.
In that moment, it was like, oh, fuck you. Then,
Somebody in chat said, No Redux in chat said, Poe reacting to flying First Order troopers is funny to me because the Empire always had flying stormtroopers. Not just the Empire, clone troopers before the Empire had flying troopers. So, like, yeah, like, it was, why does Finn of all people go, they fly now?
J.J. Abrams for gore.
Yeah. And also that was a very Marvel scene, right? Like he's right behind me, isn't he? Kind of a thing, Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'll never defend writing like that.
Good.
Because I don't.
The writing's right behind me, isn't he? Hang on, I want to see if I can kill one of these guys. Okay, gotcha. I think I want to kill both of these guys to get a thing. Nope, nothing. Okay. What's my next point? I wrote down, oh no, not J.J. Abrams' friend, because, what's his face?
The guy from Lost?
Yeah, the guy from Lost. Well, he wasn't really from Lost. No, he's J.J. Abrams' childhood friend. He did play the pilot of the airplane in Lost, but he wasn't really from Lost. You were thinking of Charlie from Lost. No, he was the pilot. He's the you said his name earlier because he was the one talking about the photosynthesis.
Greg Gumberg.
Yes, he dies in this one. Yeah. Like, they set him up as he was like the Wedge of the new Star Wars, and they just have him die at the end. And so I just wrote down, oh no, not J.J. Abrams' friend.
And then the real Wedge shows up.
Which bugs me as well, because the actor had been asked to come back for episode 7. and he said that he was only interested in doing it if they were going to give him like an actual like character, not just show up for a cameo.
Oh no, did they cut out all of his scenes too?
He's literally has one shot in this movie. He's just the gunner on the Millennium Falcon. Like they literally show him for one shot. They show Wedge for one
Do you think
shot.
he had like? Do you think he had like a bunch of scenes with Lando?
I would hope they would have more than just that. Like, yeah, like maybe have a whole subplot where Lando goes and actually assembles the fleet, because we kind of forget that happens until Lando shows up with the fleet. Which, like, I understand from a narrative purpose why we don't see Lando assemble the fleet, so that it can be a big, here comes, on at first light on the fifth day, look to the north, kind of a, Gandalf with the cavalry charge moment. But still, like, if you're going to bring back Wedge after he explicitly did not want to be in episode 7 because they were just going to have him be a cameo, only for him to just be a cameo, I don't know.
If he was really smart, he would have said yes to the first movie, and then he would have been a cameo in that movie, but then maybe he would have had a bigger role in the other movies. Huh? Gotta think smart. Should have said yes to the first movie.
I'm trying to get... You fool, your sword won't work. Try something else. Okie dokie. Let's try arrows. Nope, that doesn't work either. But a hook shot. Maybe... Oh. Here's an idea. Ah, there we go. I'm gonna die here, but at least I figured out the trick.
Let's talk about the democratization of the Force for a second.
Sure, absolutely.
Because this has made a lot of Star Wars fans very angry, and I feel like they don't really get the point of Star Wars.
I agree.
Because they don't like the idea that, like... But here's the thing, right? I also think some people on my side are kind of missing the idea as well. Because I don't think everyone has to, wave a glow stick for them to be important. Like, I don't believe the Jedi are the end-all, be-all of good in Star Wars. I don't believe that at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be a Jedi to be in the right.
Yeah, like, the Jedi and the Sith, they are both just religious orders built up around the Force. They do not own the Force. They do not control the dark side and the light. They are simply people who are trying to control something that is literally part of nature. They have built up their own dogmas around it, and that's why when I saw the trailer for The Last Jedi and saw Luke Skywalker saying it's time for the Jedi to end, I was going, fuck yes, give us that story. End the Jedi. Maybe you can rebuild something and call it the Jedi Order, but it has to be different from before. It has to be something new. And maybe that's the story that Rey will tell. I just end the old dogmas, because obviously the Jedi failed, and Luke was right to say that the old Jedi Order let the Dark Lord of the Sith build the Empire right under their very nose. And also, like... And I don't know how popular an idea this is going to be, but, like, I don't like the idea that the dark side of the Force is inherently evil. I think that there's a lot of dogmatism about, like, how you avoid using the dark side. I think there's possibly, like, negative emotions that can lead you down a dark path if you exclusively use the dark side of the Force, but it also sounds like the kind of advice that, like, alcoholics give to non-alcoholics, where it's like, oh, you can't ever touch alcohol. Like, maybe for some people the dark side, yeah, you can't do it, but maybe some people can just, force choke a bitch every once in a while, and it's okay. You know what I'm saying?
See, but this is the part that I think I disagree with people on my side of the camp, who are like, oh yeah, democratize the Force, and then people will be like, yeah, the dark side isn't so bad. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. What are you trying to say here? Because can you explain to me how you could use the dark side of the Force in a way that isn't bad?
Well, okay.
Because I struggle with that. Like
Well,
I don't really know
so
what that means.
I'm going to answer your question in a bit of a roundabout way. I'm going to ask you a question. Why is a Jedi mind trick not a dark side power?
I don't know.
Because, like, if
Should it be?
we were just talking in a vacuum, if they hadn't established the mind trick in Star Wars before, and we were just saying, what if there's a power where they can just mind control somebody? Like, you would automatically assume, well, that's probably a dark side power, right? You are overriding somebody's free will. That sounds pretty fucked up to me, right?
Do you think they call it the mind trick because it's a way of softening what it actually is?
It's
Like, oh, it's just a trick.
no, like, it doesn't work on
it's just a trick.
everybody. It works on the weak-willed, which also just sounds ableist. Like, oh yeah, no, we can use it's. We call it the mind trick because calling it retard wrangling is no longer very PC.
It only works if you're fucking dumb as hell. Oh man, it would work on me so well.
But like, I feel like, and like, okay, if we look at dark side powers like force lightning, why is that inherently an evil thing, right? That, like, that's just a different form. Like, lightning isn't evil. Lightning is just energy. There's all sorts of like energy that we see Jedi use in positive ways as well, or Jedi who use their ability, like force push. That just seems like a power that's not dark side or light side. Every Jedi and Sith uses it, but you could
It's
force
kind of crazy that
you could
the
force push
Force
someone off a
can-
cliff and they die. I would say it's the context
crazy
in which
the
you
Force
use your
can create
forces.
lightning, because that's kind of almost like airbending, like not airbending, firebending at that point. Like, aren't you just creating friction in the air? Like, what the hell is the Force if it can create lightning?
I would say it's probably just like, I mean, lightning itself, that's just like a high amount of energy, right? Like that ionizes well, it's enough energy that it ionizes the air and allows, you know, an electrical circuit to be completed. So it's just energy. There's no reason for force lightning to be a dark side ability, except for the fact that the first time we saw it was when the Emperor used it.
In the extended universe, it was used by Luke as like light Force lightning. So who knows? Maybe they'll recanonize that again. It does seem possible. Like, I don't know why it has to be the dark side. It seems like that's something. I don't know what Luke would be up to though if he was using like Force lightning, like burning motherfuckers alive. I guess. I don't know what he would use it for.
Okay, I have absolutely no idea how I'm supposed to beat this boss. I am just getting swarmed with stuff right now. Oh, hang on. There we go. Okay. No, I just needed to get enough hits while he was spamming me with more stuff. Noverdeck says, if I recall correctly, Force Lightning is Sith because the technique uses rage as the source. That I could see that. That I guess. Ooh, hello. I've got a fairy.
Oh, why does it need rage? I don't get that.
I don't either, except that like every time we see somebody do it, they're usually angry. Although, was Rey angry? I mean, I guess Rey was frustrated because she was struggling against Kylo when they were both pulling the transport, and that's when the Force Lightning comes out of her. Ooh. If I want offense, choose red. If I want defense, choose blue. I think this is the new armor. I feel like I want defense because I tend to get a lot of hits. So here we go. Yes. All right, I'm getting an armor upgrade. Let me check
When it
my.
comes to the democratization of the Force, right?
Yeah.
Um, that thing, that idea, which seems new but isn't really that new. Like I think George Lucas was already talking about stuff like that. Before Ahsoka or before Ryan Johnson, right?
Right.
One of the problems though I have with the idea, not necessarily the idea, is the way that people think it changes like what Star Wars means. Like they think it changes the sort of the core message of Star Wars, because it's like, okay, now anyone can use the Force, and it's like, yeah, but the Force isn't real, so like that makes sense in the story, but it's not really. That's not meaningful to me because the
Also,
Force
the
doesn't
Force is
exist.
in all things. It binds us all together. So of course, it should be accessible to anybody because we are all in the Force.
Yeah, but to me, it's not. It's not a deep statement on its own. The idea of anyone can use the Force. You've got to do something with that. You can't just say anyone can use the Force. It's like, okay, but I can't use the Force. So you know what I
Right,
mean?
right. It has to be a story reason for anybody to use the Force. But I do like the idea that if it is a mystical energy that binds us all together, that anybody with training could use it. Maybe they won't all be able to use it to the same power as Anakin Skywalker could.
Yeah.
But anybody
The
with enough training and dedication could learn to pick up something, right?
I
And
can strongly recommend a comic series called The Rise of Kylo Ren. Have you heard about that?
I have not.
There's a really cool scene. It's only 4 issues long. It's a really short series. There's a really cool scene where Luke is teaching the students how to use the Force, right? And one of them gets really frustrated because she's like, it's so easy for Ben, because he's like related to Luke and stuff like that. And it's like, how come it's so easy for him, but it's so hard for me? And Luke sits down and explains how, the Force is just like, it's just like a breeze of air blowing through a house. And some of the doors are more open than others. And some of the doors are completely closed. And so it takes more effort for some people than it does for other people. But every door can be opened. And I really liked that sort of explanation
Yeah, that works
because
for
it
me.
does kind of remind me of real life. Like, some people have to study a lot harder than other people. Like, I'm really bad at maths, but some people are really good at maths. So it's like some people have to work harder to get to certain things. So that is kind of like real life. But like everyone can do the thing. Like anyone can do maths. It's just harder for some people.
Okay. Let's see what other notes. I've got a couple more here. Oh, the weird thing at the end where Lando and Janna are talking and like she's like, I don't know where I'm from, and he's like, well, let's find out. Did you get the read there that they were implying that like Janna is Lando's kid?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the idea, like the implication.
Like, so because they're
Um
both black people in Star Wars, it's like, okay, here, like that's how I read. It's like, oh, it's like one black person in Star Wars meeting another black person in Star Wars. I bet they're related. It's not like there's a
yeah,
bunch of black people in Star Wars or anything.
there was definitely a scene probably cut out where Lando talks about how he lost his daughter, because that's a thing in the canon. Um the idea that Lando like lost his daughter and he's sort of looking for her. And I think
If they
the
had done that,
idea of that scene,
I would have been on board with that line. I'd be like, oh,
yeah,
okay, there it is. But like, it just came out of nowhere.
that the idea of that scene wasn't that he was being reunited with his daughter, but rather he saw his daughter in Janna and
Right.
wanted to help her. I think that was the idea, but it doesn't really come across because
If they don't have that
they
line, that
fucking
sets
cut
up
out.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. If that's something that was in there and they cut out, okay, then I understand. They shouldn't have cut it out. Or if they cut it out, they should have also cut out the bit where he's like, let's find out. Because
yeah.
otherwise, yeah.
I don't get that. I don't know why they kept that scene in with Lando saying that if they cut out the other scene. Because I mean, I like the scene. I just you got to have more, or else that scene seems sort of odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like the idea that Lando and her are like having like adventures together and stuff, and maybe he's looking for his daughter. I like that. But you know, they got to have that fucking Lando show. They gotta
If
make
they
that,
ever have that Lando show.
Maybe that's what it's about. It's about him looking for his lost daughter or whatever.
I am
So
doing.
why do you think this movie is as bad as The Phantom Menace? Can you take that back at least?
No, I think it's.
Can we
Oh,
go-
as bad as the Phantom Menace? Yeah, no, I think it's as bad as the Phantom Menace. I think.
Oh my god!
Well, so
Either you really like The Phantom Menace,
No,
or you really hate this movie.
there's things to like about the Phantom Menace, but it's a fucking mess. And there's things to like about this movie, but it's a fucking mess. And I will say that a bunch of the story elements from this do feel like a response to the fans' rejection of The Last Jedi.
All right, so this is what the conversation really should be, I think.
I agree.
I think it should be you and me talking about why you misunderstood what The Last Jedi was about.
Okay. Let's hear it then. Why did I misunderstand The Last Jedi?
Hold on a second. Because you might have very different reasons from the reasons I hear people parroting all the time. So,
Okay.
I don't know for sure. What specific things about The Rise of Skywalker did you feel were going back on or reversing The Last Jedi's message?
The rejection that of the idea that Rey's parents didn't matter. For one, that seems pretty obvious. I think we can both agree there that they went back on that. Like,
do you think
Rian Johnson introducing the fact that her parents didn't matter, that they were filthy junk traders.
Hold on. All
right.
Did Rian Johnson introduce the idea that her parents didn't matter? Or did Kylo Ren, the character, introduce the idea that her parents didn't matter?
The film has a language, and it was very obvious that was not being set up as a lie. That she also realized.
Hold on, I didn't say it was a lie. He believes it, right? But the reason he believes it is because
no, I'm sorry. Like that, there's you're applying just character motivation, and ignoring that there is a language of film going on here. That there is something that the language of The Last Jedi. It's not just that he believes that that Rey's parents were filthy junk traders who were nobody and sold her for drinking money. It's that is presented to the audience by the filmmaker as the truth that we're supposed to accept. That her parents don't matter. That she's been obsessing over something that reveals the ultimate truth, that she doesn't know who she is on her own, that she's been looking for an identity that in the wrong places. And by rejecting the mystery of her parentage, it opens her up to new ways of finding out who she is. But then The Rise of Skywalker is, okay, you're a Palpatine. That's what it's about.
Well, that was the biggest thing for her to overcome in The Last Jedi, was the idea that she comes from nothing. So then in The Rise of Skywalker, the next biggest thing was to actually open up that wound again, right? And say, oh, actually, your parents did come from something. It's just really bad.
It just undoes the work of The Last Jedi, and it really is. It's just backtracking. It is okay, people didn't like that we were subverting expectations. Let's just go back and say that it actually matters now.
But it matters in a bad way, not in a good way.
It still matters now.
Well, but what do you mean by it didn't matter? Like
you mean Rian Johnson wrote that there to tell the audience that she matters as her own person, and you shouldn't be concerned about who she comes from, because that's not the story that we're telling with her. That she has to find out who she is. But if we're just doing the thing
No. But I mean, thematically, like Brian Johnson talking about her past is him saying, where Rey came from doesn't define her, right?
Yeah.
So how does the Rise of Skywalker go against that?
Because the whole point of the Rise of Skywalker is that now that... Sorry, hang on. I'm navigating a maze and trying to remember certain things here. Can you ask me the question again?
So, if we agree that the point that Ryan Johnson was trying to make, well, there's a lot of different things that you could take from that, right? But the main thing is that Rey's past, the fact that she comes from nothing, doesn't define who she can make herself, right? So, like the ending with the little boy moving the mop, like the boy is a slave, but like maybe one day he'll escape and it won't matter that he was a slave because he can redefine himself. So how does the Rise of Skywalker conflict with that?
I think... Son of a bitch. I'm getting stuck here.
Surely by making Rey a Palpatine, that actually tells the story very strongly, just in a different way.
No, it still
Right.
goes back to she has to figure out how to define herself in her familial familial bonds. And even if she rejects her familial bonds once she finds out what they are, that still contextualizes her story in that way. It still means I have to decide who I am and what's important to me in reference to
But
my
that's a
familial
whole
bonds.
arc. That's a whole arc. That's not just The Last Jedi, that's all 3 movies. That's the whole story.
No, I'm sorry. Nothing about The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi leads to an arc where it's like, oh yeah, no, she's actually the heir to the Empire or whatever.
Well, but when Maz Kanata says to Rey, the belonging you seek is not behind you, it is ahead, in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, she's talking about your friend, the real family is the friends you make along the way, right? Like that's kind of the implication.
Which is what The Rise of Skywalker is about. It's the whole arc. It's not just one movie.
I'm sorry, but that would be assuming that there was a whole big plan from the start about what Rey's ultimate arc would be.
No, I'm not. You don't have to assume that there's a plan. That's how it's panned out. Like that's how all 3 movies come together to represent the arc. It doesn't matter if they didn't have a plan beforehand. Those are the tracks that they laid down and followed, right? Like technically that is the story. Did I win? Did I defeat you in the marketplace of ideas?
No, I'm still doing a maze thing here. Yeah, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on the Rey thing, but let's move on from that.
That's what people say when they get defeated in the marketplace of ideas.
Yeah, sorry, my brain is a little cooked here. Oh, hang on. I'm going to pull out my trap card, which is reading a message from the chat. Somebody says, Fallen Gemini says, I'm with Gayfish on this. Ryan Johnson tried to say that it doesn't matter who a Jedi's parents is. Anyone can be the next Darth Vader or the next Luke Skywalker, a powerful Jedi. Yeah, and the fact that... okay, yes, actually, here we go.
Whoa. Well, they touched on something really, really good just then.
Yes, and I'm going to expand on it.
The last part.
Yeah, anyone can be the next Darth Vader or the next Luke Skywalker, a powerful Jedi. And
a powerful Jedi. Okay.
And
I'll get back to that.
Sure. By tying Rey to a Palpatine, that undermines the message of The Last Jedi that it can come from anywhere. We find out she's not a powerful, Force user just because she happens to be good at it. She's part of the same dynasty that's been in all of these films, and that's why she's good at the Force, which that undermines Ryan's message.
I think that's the whole conversation. Like, I think you're taking the opening, you're taking sort of the antithesis, and you're not working in the synthesis. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know how like someone will open an argument by saying the opposite of their argument, only to then defeat the argument over the course of their argument? You're just taking the opening statement rather than factoring in the whole conversation that the movie's trying to have. Do you get what I mean?
No, not really.
Because Palpatine saying like, ah, yes, you are a Palpatine, and that's all you will ever be, blah blah blah. Like, that's like a children's movie's way of like, you're not supposed to agree with the villain there. You're supposed to go, well, no, you're wrong. I'm more than what my blood determines. You know what I mean? Like, you're not supposed to agree with the villain. And she proves him wrong by not falling to the dark side and by defeating him, right? I'm not saying it's deep, but surely the movie itself does refute the idea. Like, when they said anyone can be a powerful Jedi, to me that doesn't mean anything, because like, powerful Jedi, like, I don't believe I can be a powerful Jedi.
Well, not anybody in the real world. Obviously,
real.
it's in the Star Wars universe. The Force isn't an actual thing. People can't. There's no such thing as magic. But like, the idea is, greatness can come from anywhere, and it's not just, it's not just something for, divine bloodlines or whatnot.
Yeah, but the theme isn't Rey isn't great because she's a Palpatine. She rejects Palpatine throughout the movie.
Yeah, but her power is because of Palpatine, and that's a problem. I don't like that.
Who cares? Her power doesn't mean anything. The powers aren't real. So the one thing that makes her important is her superpowers. Well, that doesn't fuck up the theme, because that's the one thing that I can't have. I can't have Palpatine superpowers. Right? Am I wrong?
You can have Palpatine superpowers if you try really hard and believe in yourself.
So, like, saying that ruins the story, because it's like, oh no, but she's related to Palpatine, and that ruins the story, because now it means I have to be related to Palpatine. What?
No,
you can't have the Force.
It ruins the message of The Last Jedi. It diminishes The Last Jedi before it, like The Last Jedi diminished The Force Awakens before it.
I disagree with that as well.
Yeah, no, I
don't think The Last Jedi diminished The Force Awakens. I think it improved it.
I think that if you are going to reject what came before, it is going to diminish what came before. And I still think that The Last Jedi is the best of the. Hang on. Let me finish. I think that the Last Jedi is still the best of the prequel trilogy. Sorry, not the prequel, the sequel trilogy. But I do think that it diminishes The Force Awakens by rejecting the mystery boxes that J.J. Abrams set out rather than resolving them.
The empty mystery boxes that J.J. Abrams placed there.
Right, but J.J. Abrams set them up there, and
there was nothing there.
J.J. Abrams shouldn't have done them in the first place, but he did them, so they were there. And Rian Johnson, I thought it was interesting to reject them, but it doesn't make The Last Jedi bad for it. It just makes The Force Awakens worse for it, because in his rejection of them, in his rejection of those things, that means people who were invested in those things from The Force Awakens, it's like, oh, well, obviously that didn't matter in The Force Awakens, so The Force Awakens isn't as good for it, because it sets up things that you now know don't matter. but that's not as bad. Like I said, it makes it worse, but it's not as bad because, again, yeah, it's mystery box shit that J.J. Abrams shouldn't have done in the first place, so I'm okay to forgive that. But then J.J. Abrams goes and rejects the rejection and just goes back to, okay, no, it does matter again now. And that just the back and forth, it doesn't play well.
But he didn't go back to. If he went back to, he would have made Rey a Skywalker by blood, or he would have made her a Kenobi or something stupid like that. But he did something completely different. He made Rey a Palpatine, which is definitely not what he had planned when he made The Force Awakens. Right?
Do you know
There's
that?
no way that was what he was going to do. Do you?
Do you think it, like, is a... Hang on, I'm getting beat up by a fox because I stabbed the fox, which seems fair.
I would have thought he would have made her related to a Skywalker or something like that. Like, that's what those scenes might have been hinting at. But because Rian Johnson rejected that, it kind of made the story better, because then he could... Rian Johnson rejected that whole thing, and then he killed Snoke. So, like, in my mind, that made the story better, because now they could actually make the story about the thing that the whole Skywalker saga is about, which is the sort of battle between these, like, two family dynasties. And Rey being this, like, this mediator in the middle, essentially.
Yeah, I didn't want it to become another family dynasty thing. Like, it wasn't even called the Skywalker saga until they decided that Rey was going to be a Skywalker at the end, but was, a Palpatine beforehand.
Yeah, but that is what it is, isn't it? I mean,
it is now. They called it that.
There isn't really any name. I wouldn't even know what to call it. Even if Rey didn't call herself Skywalker, I'd probably still call it the Skywalker saga. Or I guess the Star Wars saga.
Yeah, you would call it the Star Wars saga. They specifically called it the Skywalker saga after the end, when they're like, okay, this is the end of the story for the Skywalkers. But yeah. Okay. Now, another thing that I'm not going to complain about that a bunch of people did, or at least not in the same way. A lot of people misread the end of this movie as Rey moving to Tatooine. She was not moving to Tatooine. She was just burying the lightsabers there because that was Luke's home. That's like, and the Skywalkers come from Tatooine. I still take issue with that. I mean, I can understand why she as a character would think to do that. I just don't think it's the most respectful place to bury them. Luke couldn't wait to get away from Tatooine. After Beru and Owen were killed, he said, there's nothing for me here. And Leia has zero connection to Tatooine. The only time she was ever on Tatooine, she was made a slave by Jabba. I'm sure she doesn't hold fond memories of the planet. Anakin has nothing but trauma from that place. So Tatooine is not a happy place for it's not a good home for the Skywalkers.
I think you misread it. I think you misread that scene. It's not meant to... She's not burying the lightsabers because she's like, oh, this is a happy place. I think she's just like, this is an important place because someone came from nothing here. Like, she's treating it almost like a religious site, in a sense.
I guess,
And
but then, like,
Luke and
Leia do show
like,
up. Like, Luke and Leia show up as Force ghosts there when she does it. So, like...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, just to look at Rey and be like, yeah, we're okay with you using our name. I don't think it's because they love Tatooine so much that they're like, yeah, we're gonna hang out here even when we're ghosts.
The reason that she goes there is because the first movie started there and they wanted to bookend.
Yeah.
So, like, I understand thematically why they end it there. So it's not the biggest issue. I think, like, character-wise, if you're going to pick a spot, I would pick Naboo. Because Naboo is where they come from just as much as Tatooine, right? And Naboo's a happier place. They could pick Alderaan if Alderaan was still there, but obviously they can't. So Naboo's...
If they picked Naboo, I would have killed myself in the theater. I would have immediately killed myself. because then the like music from the prequels would have started playing, and it would have been that fucking Anakin Padme love theme, and I have so many bad memories associated with that theme that I would have killed myself at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, and you wouldn't be talking to me right now.
Look, like I said, this is a minor thing. I do understand thematically why they want to end it with the binary sunset, like how they started the franchise. So, I do. What's your thoughts on her taking the name Skywalker?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Luke and Leia were kind of like her two Jedi Masters, right?
I mean,
and she didn't have like a last name, so
in terms of like
sense.
the act, like I think it would have probably. So, I actually, for starters, Leia was never a Skywalker. I mean, Skywalker by blood, yes, but she never used the name Skywalker. She was an Organa.
She did. She used the name Skywalker. That's canon.
When?
It's not in the movies, but
Is
if
it
you go
is
on
it
her,
current
like,
canon
Wikipedia-
is it current canon or is it Legends canon?
No. Go on Wikipedia, and she is named. It's a really long name. It's like Leia Organa Skywalker Solo or some shit like that.
Nona Berry?
So she is called like Organa.
Okay, but is
Skywalker.
that the same way that like the MCU wiki lists every single thing somebody has ever been insultingly called as one of their aliases? Because like,
is that what the?
oh yeah, if you go to the
wiki
MCU
does?
thing, basically every single nickname Tony has ever come up for, one of the other Avengers is like a joking aside. It will list that as one of their aliases, and it's like, no, that was a joking line. That's not something they're actually called.
If you click on
there's-
Thor, will it say Point Break?
Yes,
Like,
quite literally, if you go to the MCU wiki, it will say Point Break is one of the aliases for Thor. It's stupid.
that's pretty funny.
Unless you can point me to an actual source where she does use the name Skywalker rather than Organa, like, she's not a Skywalker.
She is a Skywalker, though.
She's a Skywalker
No, but
by
she is a
blood, but she never
Skywalker.
actually would use that as a name. Like, we never actually saw her using that as a name. Also, I see Tipster Raid is coming in, so hello Coomer Nation, come on in. We are having a debate about the Rise of
A movie.
Skywalker and why it
About
is the
fiction.
worst thing that has ever been put to film aside from The Room.
Hey, The Room is the best thing to ever be put to film.
How was
So-
your stream, Tipster? Oh, there we go. Okay, I was wondering because I saw that the raid was coming in, but I hadn't seen the viewer count update. Now it's at like 90. There we go. That looks better. Yeah, so we were actually probably getting toward the end of it. We were just talking about the choice to have the lightsabers buried on Tatooine at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and then Jake was arguing that Leia is a Skywalker, and I say she's, she never used that name. Obviously, by blood, she's a Skywalker, but that's not a name that she went by, and that was the debate we were having. I know, very, very high-level discourse on this specific point of story. Rey knew Luke for a couple of days. All of her training was off-screen with Leia, and that is an unfortunate consequence of just Carrie Fisher being dead. That's,
Well, I
that's
think
not
it's
something you can
more-
deal with.
It's more than just I think it's more than just that. I think this is her way of like honoring the Skywalker legacy. Right?
Sure,
Because,
no,
like,
I
the
get
whole
why.
point-
I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
like, unless you had something where we established that Leia took the name Skywalker, which we've never seen, she was always Leia Organa.
I think that's
it
a
seemed-
technicality. I don't think that really matters.
Yeah, it's
I think
it's
whether
one of those
she
things that's
used
done
the
more for
name
the
or not
audience. Like,
doesn't really matter. Yeah.
I don't think they ever actually said, like, I think the first time Organa was said on screen was in like episode 2 with Bail Organa. the first time we see him. Or did they even say Bail Organa until, like, I knew Bail Organa was in episode 2, but did they really even say Bail Organa until the third one? So, but basically, like, if she said, I'm Rey Organa, that wouldn't carry the same, like, emotional weight to the audience. A bunch of them wouldn't even realize that Organa is Leia's last name. So, like, it's one of those things where it makes sense from an audience perspective. I don't know. I
think the most here's my read of it, actually. I think the most important thing that you're missing is that Rey grew up hearing tales of Luke Skywalker.
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
So that's the reason she picks it, because she's embracing her place in the legend. She's not no one anymore. She's not nothing anymore. She chooses to become something and joins that legacy. I think that's really the point. Not like, you know, oh, is Leia a Skywalker? I think that's all beside the point.
I am just running in circles in Link's Awakening because I'm supposed to be looking for a rooster or something, and I don't know where the wind thing is. Maybe somebody in chat can tell me where it is. The flying rooster of Mabe Village. In the good old days, it used to give us rides that we held above our heads. Now it's lying under the weather vane. I don't know where the weather vane is. Oh wait, now I just realized what the weather vane is. Here we go. That's the weather vane. There we go. Okay, I just figured it out. Never mind, chat. I got it. Statue.
Have you by the way, you know what you should do? You should watch like all of the Star Wars films and give like an individual review of each of them.
That might be fun.
Because like I would watch that. Like I don't think enough people actually watch the prequels and understand how poor they are. Like those are some very poorly made movies.
Hang on. Am I supposed to bring a bird down here or something? Because I'm not figuring out. Oh, I have to play... Oh, the frog's hung alive. Oh, of course. Thank you. That's right. I did pick you up, didn't I? There we go. Imperator X says, I mean, The Phantom Menace was arguably the most boring of the Star Wars films, but also was one of the most important. It's literally the start of Sidious's master plan. I mean, like, lots of things are important. Lots of things are that can be important, but also bad. So, like, yeah, no, The Phantom Menace is not a good movie. I just...
you know about the Machete Order? Where you don't watch The Phantom Menace?
Yes, you watch
all the other movies?
4, 5, 2, 3, 6.
Yeah, I think that proves that The Phantom Menace actually isn't really that important.
It really isn't.
Basically skip it.
Yeah.
Like, Anakin does not remember anything that happened to him in that movie. I don't know why the fuck George Lucas decided, oh, let's start Anakin on his journey when he's literally 6 years old. Like, he barely remembers any of that. So, it's kind of, like, you skip, like, 10 years, and then the next time you see Anakin, he's this, like, moody 18-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of just... I don't know. I think you can probably skip The Phantom Menace when you watch those movies. Like, I don't really see what's important about it. Because the Clone Wars doesn't even start. Like, the fucking Clone Wars is actually the beginning of Palpatine's whole plan to undermine the Jedi. Right?
Okay, now I know where I need to go. Yeah, no, I think episode 1's bad. Episode 1 is just bad. I actually, having rewatched Rise of Skywalker, I'm now... I don't know that I would say that it's worse than The Phantom Menace, but it's the second worst, at least.
I just won this debate.
Okay, if
all I
your
wanted
goal
to do.
in here was
All
to
I
get
wanted
me
to
to
do-
say that Phantom
That was
Menace
my only
is
goal.
worse, okay, then you won in your goal there.
I have succeeded.
And I won in my goal because I wanted to pick your brain and find out what it was, since you're the only person who likes this movie, what it was you liked about it. And I found out. So, we both won.
Yeah.
And
at least you like The Last Jedi.
yeah,
At least
everyone should like The Last
least-
Jedi. If you don't like The Last Jedi, I immediately suspect bad things about you.
Yeah.
Because, I've never run into somebody who hated that film who had good politics.
Yeah,
Basically, never.
I've never run into someone who disliked The Last Jedi and had, genuinely good reasons for it. The best I've ever heard as an argument against The Last Jedi has just been that the Holdo character arc was kind of
I liked Holdo.
underdeveloped, because I liked Holdo. The story around her, with Poe going I don't trust you, and all that stuff. Technically, that's underdeveloped because it doesn't really make sense that her entire everyone mutinies against her, but somehow it's only Poe's fault. I do get the argument there that maybe there should have been a reason why Holdo was keeping everything from everyone, rather than her just immediately. I'm fuzzy on the details, but I do think that's the one part that people criticize. That could have used more work.
I think it makes perfect sense that she was not telling Poe the plan, considering that Poe has just been demoted. Militaries always have compartmentalized information. And Poe's the one who fucked that whole thing up.
Yeah, but at the same time, because everyone else also turns on her, it kind of makes her look like a bad leader. If everyone else is also turning on her, it is Poe's fault, but also you shouldn't have everyone go along with Poe. You should make it look like Poe's completely on his own, and then that would have worked better, I think. That's literally my only critique of The Last Jedi that I can remember, I think.
Is that the whole mutiny against Holdo needed better setup?
Yeah.
Well, if that's your only critique, I think that's fine. I think it was fine as is, but, we generally aren't disagreeing about that movie, so I think that's fine. It's wild, seeing some of the comments that I was getting from people commenting on my latest video talking about Star Wars Theory. I had somebody say that they left a comment saying, "You just said that you liked The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, so I know you're in bad faith." And
I saw that.
Yeah, I posted it on
funny.
Twitter.
That's pretty funny, because honestly, that actually makes you look less biased if you're like, okay, I liked this movie and I liked this movie, but I didn't like this movie. How is that biased? Surely you would be biased if you hated all three movies or loved all three movies. Then that would reveal your bias.
Uh-huh.
But if you're highly critical of one of the movies, doesn't that kind of not prove that point?
Yeah. It was just there's just certain... Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I don't know. There's just a whole subset of the internet, that whole part of just the Fandom Menace adjacent crowd where I don't know, their dick fell off because a woman said words on the internet.
I love arguing with those people because it's so it makes me feel like a normal person. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Because it's like if you walk up to someone on the street, right, and you go, "Hey, I like Star Wars," they'll probably kill you. They'll probably kill you with a rock or something. They'll probably start running. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then, if you talk to a Star Wars fan on the internet, it's like a coin flip. Like they're either going to be a complete psychopath or they're going to be a normal person. And either way, it's going to be entertaining. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be like, oh yeah, this person shares my interests.
Yeah.
Or it'll be like, oh my god, this person has really fucked up beliefs about women.
Yeah, like if when the Last Jedi came out, you could basically find out who somebody voted for president by asking if they liked the Last Jedi. It was wild.
That came out in didn't that come out in 2017?
Yeah, it was around that time.
That was a time. That sure was a time. I remember there being a cut of The Last Jedi that didn't have any of the people of color.
Oh god.
They cut out all the people of color. Yeah. Yeah, me and my friend, we actually watched that cut. Like we pirated it, obviously. I don't think they would have sold it anyway. But we watched that cut while like getting really drunk, and the cut was a lot funnier than we expected, because it wasn't just like them cutting out all of like all the people of color. The cut was actually really stupid. It was like they tried to improve the movie by giving Rey like a training sequence.
Uh-huh.
Because one of the big complaints was, why is Rey so good at everything if she doesn't train? If they actually fucking paid attention to the movie, they would understand. But like, the big complaint was like, Luke didn't train Rey, even though that's not what his character was there to do.
Yeah,
why would he train?
She was there to
like,
teach him a lesson.
Yeah, like why would he train her in something he no longer believes? Like that doesn't make any sense. They're clearly not fucking even paying attention to what the movie's trying to say. But anyway, they re-edited it to make it look like he was training her. So like when she shows up and meets Luke, it just hard cuts to like a wide shot of her swinging the lightsaber, and then like him speaking like voiceover, just pulled from like other segments of the movie.
Uh-huh.
And it's like really badly done. And then the best part was when Snoke dies. They edited it to make it look like Snoke didn't really die.
Oh god.
And then they played audio. They played audio of Snoke going, "Ha ha 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 ha, foolish child," and then like he fades away like he wasn't ever even there or something.
Oh my god.
And yeah, and like I was really drunk at this point, like watching the movie, and I like my soul left my body. I was just losing my mind how stupid this fucking thing was. I thought it was just going to be like a weird racist cut of the movie, but it was also like very fandom menacey when I didn't expect it to be.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, there's a lot more overlap. I think that's when I discovered that there was a lot more overlap between like the bad reactionary people and the sort of fandom menacey. I guess there is a lot of overlap between right-wing people and not understanding media, I guess.
Oh yeah, no,
I'm surprised by that.
That the Venn diagram of people who have no media analysis and conservatives, it is either a circle or it is one circle entirely inside another circle.
Yeah. I don't know what I expected, but yeah.
And like you know, when I see things like from Star Wars Theory, it really feels like when he talks about what Star Wars means to him, all he can ever talk about is like Like the first time I reacted to one of his videos, I was just like, I was like, he probably thinks that understanding Star Wars means knowing that Mace Windu used the Vapad stance that draws on the your enemy's dark side powers, and like literally I unpause and he mentioned lightsaber stances. So like I was like, oh, so that's actually him. He literally thinks that knowing Star Wars means knowing little nitty-gritty details about, you know, this character uses this stance, and like I'm like, you don't actually get any of the themes of it or anything like that. You're entirely focused on knowing the facts and figures, which can only get you so far, and it doesn't tell you like why these stories are important. And like he talks about how Star Wars, it should only be about the Jedi versus the Sith, and I'm like, you want Star Wars to be very small. If that's all you want it about.
Cults fighting each other.
Yeah, like I want Star Wars to be bigger than that. It's about a galaxy far, far away, but we're just supposed to be following one family the whole time. Like really?
Yeah,
that's
I think my current pinned tweet is me specifically making the argument that Star Wars theory doesn't seem to understand, which is just that the whole point that Star Wars isn't about Jedi versus Sith. It's about the battle between light and dark, and that is like a larger mythic idea that you can't whittle down to just two cults fighting each other. Like ultimately, that's a much bigger concept. The battle between basically freedom and fascism. Like that's a much bigger thing.
Which, like,
and everyone's involved in that fight, not just Jedi.
Which is why Andor is such a good fucking show. And like, for theory to dismiss Andor as like an art house show for people who's like who like the smell of their own farts, like shows like I'm sorry, Andor is a pretty mainstream show.
How the fuck is it art house? Does he know what art house is? Like.
He thinks if there are themes and something that isn't just my lightsaber is blue, that means I'm good. My lightsaber is red, that means I'm bad. He thinks if there's anything deeper than that, then that's not Star Wars because it's too cerebral.
It's not even it's like literally a spy thriller. Like the first.
Oops, that's not what I want to do.
Like, wasn't there a bunch of episodes that was just a heist? Like it's really not that complicated. Like, it's well made, but it's not. I would never call it an art house.
No, it has strong themes. It does a lot of good character work in building up things. It doesn't immediately spell everything out to you from the start. Like people complaining about.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Like say people pointing out the, oh my god, how many times are we gonna see this guy eat cereal? And it's like, he's being emasculated the entire time. He has been humiliated and disgraced, and he's going back living at home with his mom, who's awful, and he's being treated like a child. That's why he's eating cereal, because children eat cereal. He's being emasculated, and he is like the archetypal, he's the true believer fascist, this is the example. He doesn't get rewarded because he's not because what he believes in isn't true. Like, he actually causes the problems to begin with by pursuing something he's told not to pursue because it will cause problems for their operation. But he's a true believer. He's like, no, I'm not letting the murder of these guys go unpunished. And for that, he like ruins his life and gets everything screwed up. So like, yeah, for people to be like, oh my god, he's eating cereal. Yes, because he's the one who actually believes in this stuff, and he's not rewarded for it. He's punished for it because that's not how this system works. Yeah, no, there's a lot, like, all you have to, you just need a little bit of thought. Like, ask yourself a question, why is he eating cereal? Why did the filmmakers think that this was something to focus on? And they don't do that. They just think he's just eating cereal. That's all there is to it. They're wasted time when they could have had somebody with a lightsaber.
I love that scene a lot because I like the idea that we kind of remind people, or at least try and reinforce, because Star Wars doesn't always do this. Star Wars really sometimes makes the bad guys look really cool.
Uh-huh.
And while I understand that, because it's like Kylo Ren is pretty fucking cool. We've got to remember though.
Darth Vader's really fucking
Kylo
cool.
Ren, oh yeah, really fucking cool. But, and this is something Dave Filoni is really good at pointing out. He gave a really interesting interview where he talked about it. He was like, yeah, Darth Vader's cool. Kylo Ren is cool. These people are miserable. Like, these people are miserable, and they make themselves more and more miserable, like, because of their own actions. Like, I can't remember his name now, but the character in Andor, like, he is so miserable,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all his own fault. Like, I mean, sure, like, obviously he's born within a system or whatever. Like, he is in a fascist system, so there are things that are sort of incentivizing him to act that way. But ultimately, the choice is with him, and he keeps choosing to make the wrong choices, and then he doesn't get rewarded for it by the very state that he is giving everything to.
Yeah.
Well,
up until like right at the end when he saves the CIA lady or whatever her. Oh hey, I just found. How do I activate this? Do I need to dig here?
And they're lonely too. Like Rebels did a really good job of this too. I really fucking love Star Wars Rebels.
Oh, Rebels is a great show.
Oh, so good. Rebels did this really well in an episode called Through Imperial Eyes, where like you basically spend a lot of time with that was after. No, what was the episode where Callus and Zeb get stuck on like a meteor?
It's been a while. I only watched the show once, so
they get stuck on a moon together, and then they sort of develop a bromance, and they start like they have to work together to survive, or else they'll both die.
Uh-huh.
And ultimately, Zeb is like, yeah, my friends are gonna come for me, and Callus is like, well, maybe the Imperials will come for me. And then eventually, like, the rebels show up to collect Zeb, and Zeb's like, when are your people gonna come for you? And he's like, they'll probably be around soon. And it's kind of like, oh man, does he even have anyone? And then when he finally does get back, and he's on the Imperial ship, there's this great sort of contrast between how Zeb is received when he gets back on the Ghost, and he's meeting with Ezra, he's meeting with all of his friends, and then it cuts to Callus getting back on the Imperial ship, and the guy just sort of like salutes him and goes, Agent Callus, you're back. And then he sort of walks away.
Mm-hmm.
And then Callus like goes to his quarters, and he just sits down in like this grey, depressing room. And then Callus, there's just this, the episode ends on this wide shot of Callus just sitting there looking down really sadly. And to me, that's almost like the that's like
a similar vibe.
Yeah, like with Andor, it's just him sitting in his room. There's so many shots of him sitting alone, and you're thinking like, man, these people are just so sad and lonely. Like, they don't have anyone. So like, that's why they fight so hard, because they want to find a reason. Like, they want to serve their state because they don't have friends to serve. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the more lonely they're made, the harder they'll try to fight to find like a reason to live. It's really sad. And ultimately, Callus, like, spoilers for Star Wars Rebels, but Callus ends up making like the right decision and joins the Rebels and stuff.
And do I need to open all of these to get something? I suspect I might need to open all of these to get something. If that's the case, at least coming in this way, I can get that done. There we go. Oh, it was just 100 rupees? Okay. That wasn't really worth it. I thought there was going to be something I unlocked there. But there might be something here. Nightmare key? Test key? Seashell? Boy, whatever. Well, I think we've probably exhausted our conversation here. I think we can both agree that I won and Rise of Skywalker is dog shit. But thank you so much for coming on. Shout yourself out.
Yeah, I'm Jake. Pat punished Jake too. I don't really have anything to shout out. Yeah, it was a fun combo.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. By the way, how was the audio?
I guess chat can tell me. You sounded fine to me, but I don't think I saw anybody in chat really complaining about it.
Okay, because these are different. This is a different headset from last time, and it cost me $300. So I'm glad that it wasn't noticeably worse than the $60 headset that I used last time.
All right. Well, thank you for coming, and I'll see you in chat, or you go about your day, or whatever it is. Have a good one. Hey, thanks for watching. Your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like, and subscribe, and ring the bell. And drop a comment below telling me what you thought of the video. I stream Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific, and Sundays at 2, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a very special shout out to my Whaled Shark tier patron Ryan D and my Anemone friend tier patron Piftle Cakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.